Right. So, hello everyone. Nice to have you here. So today I'll be speaking about all you need is standard when you can't do without standardization in data analytics and visualization. So we are aware that a lot of people, and especially a lot of analysts, have the way they do their reports. People have the way they design their reports, the way they set up layout, the way they use colors inside their reports or their visualizations, choice of visualizations and all that. But just like the panel session we talk about this morning, you need a standard. If you really want to drive a data culture driven decision in your organization, you need a standard. Everybody must know the way they do things, right? So from a methodological viewpoint, we need to understand how standard works in an organization. So your speaker today, I am Adewale Yusuf. I'm a team lead business intelligence trainer and Brand Consulting. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, MVP, and also an international business communication standard certified trainer. So you can connect with me on Twitter at Adewale Analyst. You can follow my YouTube channel, Analytic Extra, and also follow me on LinkedIn. So I'll be talking about standard, like I said. So if you go to Google right now today, and then you type PowerPoint presentation, for example, you find that there's a lot of colorful overview of different PowerPoint presentation, very fancy, maybe driven by corporate design idea and ideas of some developers and designers and even software developers, right? No concept to be seen actually. It's fancies of visuals, colors, and design. So you can see different things, right? People design stuff based on whatever they like. And if you look at the dashboard, also, for example, when you go online and type dashboard, you see different colors of dashboard based on people's opinion, based on what drive people design. Looking at this dashboard, for example, you can see this is just black and there's some colors here. And if I give you an example of another dashboard, this dashboard is also designed by another designer. I got this from Google as well. So you can see that people have different ways they do stuff, even within an organization, because there is no standard. I also have another example here of another dashboard that shows a profit and loss dashboard, right? So the first one is different from the second one, and the second one is also different from the third one. So because there's no standard, so people design their stuff based on inspiration. If I go to Google right now, and I would like you to go to Google as well, and you type financial dashboard in Power BI or in Tableau or in QLinks or in Excel, you will see there will be a lot of dashboard inspiration by different people, right? By different designers, right? And that means there's no standardizations when it comes to data analytics and when it comes to reporting and when it comes to visualization. But that should not actually be, right? Because semantic notations is very important in business or any professions that you have. So we need to understand how to kind of create a semantic notation is what you do. If you look at some other disciplines, for example, let's start from, let's say, music, they have a standard notation, right? Let's say sheet music, for example. Hundreds of years ago, the musicians have decided to have a language for their own music communication, right? Different musicians writing down the same melody, the resulting sheets will look almost the same. And this is what we are looking for in business. If you look at this sheet music, everybody understands this sheet music. No matter country you reside, no matter where you have, everybody understands sheet music. If I'm going to ask you in chat, who do you think is a sender of sheet music? Who do you is a sender of sheet music? Anybody that can write music is a sender. So if you can write music, definitely you are a sender of music. And who had a reader of this sheet music? If you know, just type it in chat. So there will be a sender and there will be a receiver. And who is the receiver? The receiver is probably anybody that can play music, right? So you can actually play, if you can play music, then you understand this sheet music, no matter where you are in the world, or no matter ideas that you have. And if you go to Google today and you type sheet music in Google, I am very sure this is what you're going to see. The standard is going to be the same all over the world, right? Let's give an example of another discipline. Let's say a discipline like a road sign. So if you look at the road sign here, you see that road sign is kind of the same everywhere, right? If you notice, this is the same everywhere in the country. When you see red, whether you are driving in Turkey today, or you're driving in the US, or you're driving in the UK, or you're driving in Nigeria, when you see red, you definitely know that that red is telling you to stop, right? That's because of the standard. And when you see green, you know that it's time to go already. And when you see the amber, you know you just have to wait. Now, who are the standard? These are the road safety people, the people that are in charge of the people that make laws. So they created a standard for people to understand how to actually see some signs when you see them on the road. And if you go to Google today and you type road signs, you see they are everywhere in the world. They are close to being the same. Right? They are very close to being the same. And that is the kind of standard we are talking about. When it comes to communication, we don't have this standard. We kind of lack this standard. Every analyst do things the way they like. Even if I go to construction industry, for example, you see in construction industry, whether you're an architect and you actually draw a building plan, anybody in the world can actually read that building plan and understand that building plan. That is because there is a standard, and that standard is acceptable everywhere. But when it comes to business, actually, we do not have such standardization yet. Different people design their reports and their dashboard based on inspiration. Let's say Adewale, I want to design a report today. Sometimes I design the report based on maybe the organization colors, or maybe based on my inspiration, or maybe whatever visual I decided to choose. There is no standard. If you look at this particular report I'm showing on my screen, people still have different colors, different visuals to represent their scenario. Some people like bar chart, some people like column chart, some people like interesting charts, right? So there's basically no standard. These 6 charts that you're looking at here, this visual, they are all talking about balance sheets. If you look at the visuals very well, they are all talking about balance sheets right here. And you can see that they are typically they are not the same. Now, if you are to pick a visual here, out of this visual that I'm showing on my screen, which of them will you say is the perfect visuals to visualize balance sheets? Anybody? Just put something in chat. Which of them do you think you will pick? If you are to go for any of these visuals, which of them do you think you will pick? Okay, somebody said 2. 2, which is the one that shows the quarter. All right. So which of them will you pick? The waterfall. Yeah, that's from Ida. So which of them will you pick? Pick the waterfall. Robert said none. That's great. I think I like that. Robert said none. Yeah. So some people will pick stuff. Some people will try to create their own. There is really no standard, right? When it comes to this. Now, the standardization that we are talking about has to do with some topics that we really need to standardize. Which topics we need to standardize? What are the things we need to standardize in analytics? What are the things we need to standardize in terms of reporting? So I'm going to start from those standardization one by one. The one I'm going to start from is test and lie. And this standardization I'm giving you is based on an organization called International Business Communication Standard, right? This set of people have come together and be like, okay, so we need to look at some things we do in reporting. And we need to look at some colors we use. We need to look at some topics we discuss. And what are the things we need to standardize there? So we need to look at what we really need to standardize. So what look the same? There's a saying that says what looks the same should always mean the same and visualize in similar manner. If this and this, and that's actually the definition of a semantic notation, what look the same should mean the same, or what means the same should look the same. If I am creating a report on financial statement, it's actually the same. It means the same. So it should look the same, right? If I'm creating a report on actual should look the same. And I'm comparing my actual versus budget or versus prior year or versus competitors, it should look the same. Now, this standard says that when you are working with text and lines, colors and patterns are strong medium. Do not misuse them for decorative purpose or for linking legends to data series, right? Stick with just this color called black. Now, when we are talking about actual, you want to visualize actual. You know, for in every analytics, we are doing 2 things. You are either comparing your actual versus actual, or you are comparing actual versus time, which is maybe prior year, same period last year, or you are comparing actual versus budget, or you're doing actual versus target, actual versus competitors. That's basically what we do in reporting. There's always actual, and there will be comparison somewhere. You need to compare something. Now, when we are talking about actual, people tend to use different colors. Some people may decide to say, okay, these bars, I just want to use different colors here just to make my dashboard look neat, right? Instead of doing that, you should have a color for actual, standardized across your organization. This is the color we are using for actual, right? And I'm going to use this color. So here, we use a solid color as a standard for actual. Then for prior year, anytime you are visualizing prior year, I want to visualize prior year, there should be a standard color for prior year. I want to visualize prior year to this, then the color for the prior year should be a little bit lighter from the actual because we're going backward, right? So you make the color a little bit lighter. So we use it like something like a gray color here for the prior year. Now, the third thing, another thing you also need to standardize is forecast. Now, when I'm talking about forecast right here, what color are we going to use? What color should we use to standardize forecast? So we use an arch color. This arch is kind of, if you look at the flow of the prior year and the actual and the forecast is kind of a little bit blank because we are trying to fill the box and then we just put some lines there. So that is how you should visualize forecast. And when we talk about budget or target or plan, right? When you are visualizing plan or budget, you should use something called outline. Outline is just some kind of a box that you have not filled up yet. It's your target, it's your budget, right? But the actual, you fill it up. And if you look at the visualization I'm showing here clearly, you see that for the prior year, which is 2019 and 2020, we have the gray color, and for the actual, we have the solid color, and for the budget, we have another color at the back that just shows whether you have met up your budget or not. So this basically is telling a lot of story and is mutually exclusive. Now, another color that we usually look at is when you're showing good and bad inside your visualization. When you're showing good, it makes sense to always use green. And when you're showing bad, it makes sense to always show red. I've actually seen a dashboard that somebody built for an organization that their organization color is red. So because this organization color is red, this particular person used red throughout the entire report. Please don't misuse this. You should know anytime you're showing red inside your report, definitely you're trying to show something is bad or you need to improve on something. Then when you need to talk about neutral or highlighting, sometimes you are free in terms of this kind of color. You can decide to use maybe your company logo if it's not red or green. You can use your company color. You can use like a blue just to highlight something, right? And then for neutral. So this particular visual that I've explained, the standardization, which is text and line, actual, prior year, forecast, budget, good, bad, and neutral, you can as well use them. And this is an example of a report or a visualization that I'm showing here. This is typically showing actual versus plan, which is the budget. And this is the actual in the solid color, and this is the plan at the back of it. Same thing goes to actual and the plan. Then the third one, which is the December, based on the color. We already understand the standard now. What color is this? What do you think this is? Based on this color that you can see, what do you think this is? Is this a prior year? Type in chat, you know, if you are following me. Is this a prior year? Is this a budget? Is this an actual or is it a forecast? Just type it in chat. This December, what do you think it is? Based on the standard that we just look at. Somebody type in chat. What do you think is it? Forecast. Thank you, Michael. So that's forecast. Definitely, because we've agreed on a standard in our organizations that this is going to be a forecast. So in your organizations, anytime you see this color, you know that this person is trying to visualize a forecast. You don't really need to call an data analyst or let me say data scientist come and explain or present their report to you basically, because you have a standard and you understand the standard. Now, when we are talking about visuals as well, you should only use a column chart or a line chart when you're talking about time series, right? I'm talking about maybe January to December. I'm talking about quarter in terms of months, in terms of years. That is the only time you should use a column chart. That should be a standard as well. When you're using a column chart, just know I'm trying to talk about time series. And then when you are talking about categories, you want to talk about categories, then you should use a bar chart, which is the horizontal chart, a bar chart. Any kind of category you're talking about, it should be a bar chart, right? So I'm going to give an example in chat as well, just a funny example. I want you to type in chat, what do you think 1 is? Based on these people you're looking at, which standard do you think is 1? Is 1 prior year? Is it forecast? Is it actual? Is it budget? What do you think 2 is? What do you think 3 is? Please type in chat. Tell me 1 is what? Type it in chat. 2 is what? Let me see if you understand the standard. Okay, 2 is actual. 3 is forecast. 1 is prior year. 4 is budget. Great. It shows that we understand this now. So even though you don't want to pick these colors in your organization, then there should be a standard. Don't just design visuals the way you want. Don't design dashboard the way you want. Don't use colors the way you want. Colors should give a meaning. Colors should actually explain things. You're not using color for design's sake. Should we also be using color for communications, right? 1 is actually prior year, 2 is actual, and 3 is FC and PL. Now, another thing you need to standardize as well, based on International Business Communication Standard, is variances. So when we're talking about variance, which we talk about bad and good, which is red and then green, there's also different type of variance. We have the absolute variance and we have the relative variance. When you are showing variances as well, you need to make sure that the bars are different. So if you're showing absolute variances, which is the different, and if you look at this chart right now, inside this chart, I'm comparing prior year versus actual. Actuals are the black. The prior year, they are the lighter color at the back of the black, right? Those are the prior year. And this is the forecast also compared to the prior year forecast, right? So if you look at this, there's also absolute variance. This absolute variance is typically actual minus prior year, right? Actual minus prior year. And I also have a relative variance. So when you're showing a relative variance, you should use a thinner bar. Absolute variance should be the normal bars, right? But when you're using a relative variance, the bar should be kind of thinner. When we're talking about titles as well, we need to also standardize titles. One thing we normally miss in identification of charts and tables is we don't understand titles, right? It would be great if we have a standardized chart title, so we can actually know where to look at in maybe to identify a visual or to identify a dashboard. So right here, you can see the standard I have here is the first line should be the company name, then the second line of the title should be what you are trying to show us. This is like net sales in Nigeria. Then the third line of there should be a time series to talk about the time of this visual, this report, which is basically 2021, and I'm comparing actual versus plan and versus prior year. So there are other topics we can actually standardize, other topics like terminology, descriptions, dimensions, analysis, and indicators as well. But because of my time, I will not be able to talk about some other topics today. I think this is where I'm going to stop right now. So if you have any question, I'll be willing to take questions now.
Yeah, I agree with Alitza that it's very different, very interesting to compare different approach. And great. I like your exercise with picture of the answers. I will pick it up.
Thank you.
I remember what I wanted to ask. Maybe for so finally you mentioned the right thing that you may standardize terminology, data model, whatever. According to your experience, what is most unusual, interesting thing that you standardized?
Okay, so thank you for that, Alex. Based on my experience, we have actually deployed this standardization for over, especially for the couple of 2 years. I think I've deployed this standardization for over 15 organizations, right? And one of the issues that we have is people adopting the standard. So we need to do a lot of awareness and a lot of empowerment, right? Just to make people understand the standard. Most of analysts are kind of used to their way of designing reports, which means I can design my own color based on whatever I want. I can pick my choice of visuals based on whatever I want. I can do whatever I like. But when it comes to standard, you have to follow the standard. So what we do to help them is to create a standard notations, right? IBC also help with standard notation. So you create a standard notations for the organizations, like a book, right? Everybody have that notations and they're all reading it and all understand there's a notation for our organizations. When we are talking about actual, we use black. When we are talking about this, we do this. So you write a notations for them so that people can understand this is a standard and you must practically follow this standard to make sure the communication is seamless in the organization.
And what is most popular format document to keep this standard? For example, Microsoft Word document, editable document, or Google Docs static PDF file, or electronic knowledge base like Conference or Notion. What tools do you use to maintain this standard?
Okay, so for the standard notation, the tool is basically PDF. We just create a standard notation note. It's like a book, right, that we give to people to read about the standard notations. But when it comes to visuals themselves, right, when you say tools, when it comes to visuals, which means using visuals that are already available for this standard, right? For example, in Power BI, there's an organization like Zebra BI. Zebra BI has some visual compliance, already compliance with this IBCS standard. So if you use a Zebra BI chart in Power BI, they already have those standards set. Those colors are already set. So you just need to know how to use those visuals, right? And it's not only Zebra BI. There are some other organizations that have like some custom visuals like that in both Power BI and Tableau that you can actually use. Yeah.
Okay, so you provide standard as a book to read and the Power BI template as a template to use.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's a great approach, and I hope that after this conference, many of other friends, participants will begin to use standards and templates for their corporate dashboards. One person asks to post the link here to IBCS. Could you do it, Adewale?
Yeah, I'm dropping the link now.
Okay. Thank you for your time, for your experience.